Hello, I'm Jill Morikone. I just want to welcome you to our Thursday night live program. That's right, we are coming to you live from our studios here in Southern Illinois, and I am delighted about tonight's program. If you're a young person, this program is for you. If you are a parent, this program is for you. Or maybe an auntie like I am, this program's for you. If you're a grandparent, this program is for you. We have, in my opinion, one of the best, most extraordinary people in the world dealing with young people, and that is Rich Aguilera. Before we introduce him, I got to introduce my co-host. Even though she's not sitting next to me, we decided to just kind of balance ourselves out around the table. But Aunt Francine, our general manager here for 3ABN Kids Network, is co-hosting, even though we're a little ways away. So glad you're here tonight.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, especially who our guest is, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say for this evening. So. Delighted.
That's right. Rich Aguilera is president of One Mustard Seed. And Rich, it is a privilege to have you here with us tonight. We love to hear you share. You are creative and gifted and have amazing television programs and ideas. So I'm excited about tonight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me on again. It's great to be back. Every single time we come back, it seems like we have a great time talking about how we can minister to the kids.
Yeah. Speaking of that, why, before we go to the music and do all that stuff, why did you become involved in kids ministry?
You know, when I first was coming out of college, I was trying to figure out what could I do? What creative thing could I do? And that's why I got into architecture originally. And turns out that when I was practicing as an architect for those years, I was not getting the creative thrills that I was hoping that I would get. So then I just got really active at church because I found out that serving children's ministries, youth ministries, you could really pour on the creativity, and that's really what needs to be done for kids to engage. So it just kind of almost became exciting and addicting, just like, you know, being creative and just pouring it all into serving God through children's ministry. And then it just snowballed, and here we are 30 years later, or some other number that we probably shouldn't talk about.
Has it been 30 years since you've been working with kids?
Well, yeah, I think so. It's probably a little over 30 years. I've been a Sabbath School teacher for 30-something years, nonstop, for kids. I've never been to an adult Sabbath School class.
Really?
It's true. I've literally been teaching kids Sabbath School classes now for 30 years in a row, and I love it. And that's where I feel like God has called me, and that's where I need to serve. So.
And your excitement and energy is contagious for everyone to see. So, yes, every time I see you with the kids, you just light up. So we appreciate that about you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. The kids love you. I know that. The kids love the programs. And I'm not a kid. Maybe I'm a kid at heart. But in my office at 3ABN, I was telling them just before the program, there's like 9 television, because we have 9 television networks, and they're all up there on the television in my office. And every time you come on, I'm like, oh, there's Rich. And I got to see the program or what's happening. So it's exciting. And why is it important to do ministry for children? Why does that matter?
You know, we often lump kids into this category of like we're waiting for them to grow up. And if we kind of treat them as, you know, in the wings, waiting for them to become adults, productive, whatever, and we don't minister them, by the time they grow up, they're gone.
Yeah.
We have to connect with them while they're young. We have to instill all these concepts and ideas while they're young, get them convicted before they're 12, 13. Because if they're not, then by the time they're that age, they've really already made a decision, and the decision kind of goes into effect by the time they're 18 or 20. But if they're not locked in by 12, 13 or so, it's a scary statistic how many of them leave the church. So that's why I decided I'm going to put my effort here, because this is the future. And the present of the church as well, because they bring so much excitement and energy into any setting, having, you know, kids involved. So.
And I like how you get other kids involved helping other kids, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I've seen you do that as well at Pioneer.
Yeah, so
Church,
you get one kid involved, and then the next one wants to be involved, and it kind of, you know, snowballs on you. So it is a great way of getting kids to engage. You know, the culture nowadays has become so much where it's just like, just watch. It's got to be more than that. You got to get them engaged. They got to be involved. They got to interact. So anything that we can do along those lines is important, which of course becomes harder as you get into media, because media is so watching only or listening only. So you really got to pour on the creativity to figure out ways to engage them and get them to interact.
And you don't want to lose them by the time they're teenagers, because if you can get them involved while they're young, then hopefully when they're teenagers, they can help with the media aspect of things too. So yeah, that's.
And then we take the teenagers and have them help out in children's ministries, which is what we used to do for years in our children's church. It was the teenagers doing the children's church for the children. So it was a really nice combination.
That's really powerful. Tonight it is all things children. It's about creativity. It's about using that in your own home, with your family, with your kids, in your church, in your community. It's about evangelism for young people. It's about connecting with Jesus, which is the most important thing we can ever do with our young people. So we have some brand new initiatives that Rich is launching. We're going to see tonight a trailer, this will be toward the end of the program, of a new movie that is coming out. He's going to talk to us about that. We're going to talk about some children's Sabbath School programs that launches tomorrow on 3ABN's Kids Network. Some books, some podcasts, some exciting dinosaur adventures, and many things that Rich is involved with One Mustard Seed. But first, I just want to remind you, this is a live program, so we want to take your questions as well. Maybe you're a child and you have questions, or you're middle-aged or a grandparent and you have questions about young people or children's ministry. You can email your questions to live, L-I-V-E, at 3abn.tv. That's live, L-I-V-E, at 3abn.tv. Or you can pick up your phone and you can text us your questions at 618-228-3975. That's 618-228-3975. Before we go any further, let's go to the Lord in prayer, ask His anointing over the program, and then Francine, I'll have you introduce our music for tonight. But Rich, would you pray for us?
Absolutely. Dear Lord, we're just so thankful that you've asked us to take care of the children, to point them to you and to guide them to you, Lord. So we just ask for your help and empower us, give us the ideas, the passion, the creativity to be able to find ways to connect with them in favor of guiding them to your feet, Lord. Bless us as we talk today about the ideas and things that we can do for your children. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So the song for tonight is I Know Who Holds Tomorrow, and it's sung by Tim Parton and Allison Spear.
I don't know about tomorrow. I just live from day to day. I don't borrow from its sunshine, for its skies may turn to gray. I don't worry o'er the future, for I know what Jesus said, and today I'll walk beside Him, for He knows what is ahead. Many things about tomorrow I don't seem to understand, but I know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my hand. I don't know about tomorrow. It may bring me poverty, but the one who feeds the sparrow is the one who stands by me. And the path that be my portion, maybe through the flame or flood, but his presence goes before me, and I'm covered by his blood. Many things about tomorrow I don't seem to understand, but I know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my hand.
He holds my hand.
But I know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my hand.
He holds my hand. I know who holds my hand.
Amen. Thank you so much, Tim Parton and Allison Spear. I know who holds my hand, and I know who holds tomorrow. What an incredible blessing. We're talking tonight with Rich Aguilera. Aunt Francine and I are talking with Rich Aguilera, president of One Mustard Seed, which is all about kids ministry. So first of all, I just want to ask why you wear that hat and how long you've been wearing that hat.
I haven't taken it off now in how many years? No, just kidding. You know, a lot of people think that I put on this hat when I started doing ministry, but I've literally been wearing these hats for 25 years. It was just the hat that I liked. I've driven my old beat up Jeep for 25 years, and that's just kind of who I was. So when I started this ministry angle, it's not that I created some character or something like that. It's just kind of who I am. I love to be outside. Since I don't have a whole lot of hair, I did need to cover my scalp so I wouldn't get fried everywhere I went. So, you know, when I was thinking of a hat, and here's just bonus trivia, I was like, okay, I need a wide brim.
Yeah.
I need something that doesn't like cover me too much, so I like the fold-up thing. And then I have this thing, which is my little strap, so whenever I'm in a windy location or, you know, coming down some mountain or something like that, I can put it under my chin and it won't fly off. So, you know, it's a combination of all these things, and I picked this hat 25 years ago, and that's it's just been the same hat. Not the exact same hat.
But that's what I was going to ask. How long do you wear the hat before it wears out and you need a new
I
one?
think a hat lifespan is maybe
A year?
No, 8 years maybe.
years?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then of course,
Better than I do.
well, it's funny because the last hat that I had, we were in Cuba, and I took it off or something, and one of the ladies there, we were on a mission trip, and one of the ladies was like, "Your hat's dirty." And she's like, "Let me clean it for you." And so she took it for a day, and when she gave it back, it was so clean that she literally shredded it.
Oh, no.
Because they must have been cleaning it on like stones or something. I don't know what happened. She's like, "Here's your hat, it's clean." I'm like, "What's left of it?" So I had to get a new hat.
It does build character on the hat, right? It has a story.
It does. The hats have been around.
I love that. So tell us about Cuba before we jump into what we're talking about tonight. But tell us about Cuba, what you were doing in Cuba.
Yeah, so Andrews Academy had gone on a mission trip, and I was asked to be one of the chaperones. And since I've been to Cuba several times, my wife is Cuban, my mom is Cuban, so they said, hey, it'd be great to bring Rich along. I could interpret, I could kind of lead one of the groups. So we spent a couple weeks working in Cuba in the city of Holguín.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So how many languages do you speak?
I speak 3 languages.
Okay.
I also speak Spanish and French.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
That is impressive. Tell us about your family, too.
Yeah, so my wife, Yvette, who I said of Cuban descent, and then I have 2 boys that are now in college. They're attending Andrews University, and I'm excited for them because next year they're going to go study in France and learn a 3rd language. So good on them.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And tell us, your ministry takes you really globally. You travel all over the world. So tell us about some of the places you've been and some of those trips.
Yeah, so it does require a lot of travel because we decided from the beginning that we really wanted to be a global ministry, not just focus on one spot or on one language even. So that's taken me to travel quite a bit as I do events. But also, a lot of our travel has to do with filming. Because one of the things that I love to do in our filming is to shoot on location. And I love to talk to kids about adventure and nature, and we got to see all these places and experience them. So, you know, I was blessed from an early age to travel a lot, and I was kind of keenly aware that a lot of kids just don't get the opportunity to travel to all these places. So I was thinking, man, could I bring them to these places with me? So my shooting style has always been like, you're right there with me. We're going to go climb this thing. We're going to go see this thing. We're doing it together. It's not just me talking, you know, whatever. So because of that, and because I thought it was great to show all these places, this waterfall, this mountain, this glacier, whatever it is, that's also brought along quite a bit of the traveling as well. And of course, trying to capture that on camera so that I can share that here on 3ABN.
It makes it come alive, and it gives a picture, because like we've heard, a picture is 1,000 words. So you doing it on location makes it really real, and imagining what it is like.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I've had kids walk up to me and it's like, do you do all that on green screen? I'm like, no, I was actually there. I got a cut right here to prove it.
I was really impressed when you were snowboarding down Mount Hood, was it? I think it was.
Yeah, with plenty of wipeouts, which of course we didn't show them.
I have a hard time just downhill skiing. I can't imagine like filming it and still trying to snowboard. So.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about these adventures and these places that you go, you're going to get some bumps and scratches along the way. But that's all part of it, and that shows that you're human. You fall down, you make mistakes, and you get up and you keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about Kids Bible Zone, which is your Sabbath School lesson for kids. And this launches tomorrow on our 3ABN Kids Network. But first of all, walk us through what the program's about.
Yeah, so basically, obviously on Sabbath, there's the different classes. And so we've created a show, and it's been running now for about 3 years. Tomorrow we launch here on 3ABN's Kids Network. But the whole point is that it's a way to prepare our kids with that week's Sabbath School lesson, a review of the lesson. So we're specifically focusing on the primary lesson.
Which is what age group?
Which would be 6 to 9.
Yep.
Yep, 6 to 9. So they have their lesson, which they get every week. So we basically produce a brand new show every week. And it's kind of funny because I've been asked by people, is like, so how long's your season? You know, because a lot of shows, 10 episodes, 13 episodes. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's 52 seasons, you know, or episodes
in
every
1
year.
year.
Yeah. And then guess what? Next year we do it over again. So
that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. And we've done, I think we're like around 160 episodes. So we're just really excited that we get the opportunity now to share that here, and that kids can come into the Sabbath and, you know, highlighting. Hopefully they've been following the lesson throughout the week, but now it's kind of like the cherry on top, where they get to just really dive into a fun show that features and highlights all the things that they learned in that week's lesson.
Yes, we have a teaser for that. Let's take a look at that, and then we'll talk more about it.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the show. Today we are checking out the primary Sabbath School lesson for June 3, 2023. Ready to get in the zone? Let's go!
Hi, I'm Michael.
Of course, we should probably check and see where that is on our map. Let's go to the map. Here's what he sent. Why do bees hum?
Right now, I'm in Vilnius, Lithuania.
Here's a couple that are playing. The cool thing about this glacier, Exit Glacier here in Alaska,
Sure feel protected when you're in here.
He's a happy gator.
Well, we have made it here to Angkor Wat in Cambodia.
just to think that somebody used to live there.
Let's go to question number 3.
Hello and welcome to Break It Down. You are on the air. Hello and thanks for taking my call. I read that God's people who have died will be raised and taken up to heaven.
Something in nature, something God made, super zoomed in. Our Bible verse. That's right, very important to memorize this, so let's all repeat it together. Look, he is coming with the clouds. It's time to be amazed by our Creator God. We'll see you next time.
Wow, I want to go back to primary. That's exciting. Look at all the places you go and how you bring that in and the questions. And how long does it take to film an episode? Because that's a lot of different pieces.
Yeah, and of course there's a couple of the segments in each episode which we shoot on location. So in that particular episode, which is the one for this coming Sabbath, we shot in Lithuania. And so on that particular trip, we'll obviously shoot a whole bunch. So upcoming episodes feature Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Finland. So each week as we go, we'll feature each one of these locations. And then, of course, by the time we travel around again, we're going to be shooting some in Hawaii here soon. So since I travel a lot, I try to capture all these places so that we can feature in our lessons.
And those good teaching points for sure.
Yeah.
So if you're ever interested, at Central Time, this is at 7:30 Friday evenings, and then on Sabbath at 11 a.m. in the morning. So that's the Central Time, but so hopefully you can find these kids' Bible Zooms.
Yep.
So it launches tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Central.
Correct.
You can watch it right here, not right here because this is Parent Network, but you can watch it on 3ABN Kids Network at 7:30 tomorrow night, or you said, was it 11 a.m.?
11 a.m.
Sabbath morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
That way we get them ready for their lesson. And of course, the cool thing is that since these are the church lessons that they're preparing for us, so it's pretty comprehensive, and it goes through a 4-year sequence for the primaries. So they cover quite a bit of material, and it's pretty exciting going week by week, making sure we don't miss a single one of the topics and episodes that they talk about.
Right, absolutely. So all of this is available as well at your website, is that right? All the details for that? OneMustardSeed.com. Let's
One
talk
Mustard
about that.
Seed, yep, is our main website. And of course, we run several different ministries, which we're going to be talking about tonight. But from there, you can definitely link up to all the other various websites. The Kids Bible Zone has its own website as well, so you can go right there, and that's where we can interact. Because if you saw in the little trailer, there's moments where kids can participate. They send in the little welcome, and they send in the little brain teasers and different activities. So the website is where we interact with them for the show.
I love that.
Can get involved. That's special.
That like we were talking about earlier, got to get them involved. It can't be a one-way street. We have to figure out how to create an engagement, because then now we have a chance to teach them.
Yes, absolutely. And we want you to be involved tonight as well. You can send in your questions for Rich. He can be on the hot seat here tonight. Or maybe you have prayer needs for your young people or grandkids, or maybe you're a young person just seeking prayer or seeking God's direction in your life. You can text us your questions. Pick up your cell phone and text us at 618-228-3975. That's 618-228-3975. Or you can email us live, L-I-V-E, at 3abn.tv, and we would love to interact with you and hear from you. So I noticed there was what was the guy's name? Was it Enzo? What was his name on the?
Bob and Enzo?
Bob and Enzo. So they're on every segment, is that right?
That's right. So their job in the episode is, this talk show thing, but they've heard the Bible story that's featured in that particular week's lesson, and so their job is to break it down. So they react, and they take in calls, and they just kind of have a fun breaking down the story. And of course, once you watch an episode, you'll probably see that humor is a key part of it, because humor is a wonderful tool for engaging kids. So we get to be humorous, we get to be silly, and that's one of the segments that we get to do both of those.
And they get to remember these questions and comments too.
That's right, absolutely.
I find out that sometimes the kids repeat some of those sayings.
Yep.
So it's always fun.
I've had kids walk up to me, years later, and they'll tell me what I said in a video or something like that. So how you say it and what you say, very memorable. These kids are just sponges.
Yeah, absolutely. So since it's a 4-year cycle, does that mean in another year you have a complete cycle done, and then it starts, or what's your long-term goal?
Well, theoretically, that would be correct. The only thing is the church is preparing to launch a new primary material here in about a year and a half.
Yep.
So that means I'll be having to start from scratch again. With the new curriculum they're preparing.
Wow.
Which is okay, because there's nothing wrong with improving and bettering the material. So I'm excited about it.
And making it relevant.
Yeah, exactly. So. And it's an opportunity to freshen something up and change it. Because, instead of just watching something that's 10 years old, it's always way more exciting if you can watch something that's fresh of that moment.
Yes, absolutely. So this just came in. Thank you so much for sending this in. This says, my kids just finished watching The Mysterious Note. 30 minutes ago, it's one of their favorite movies, so we're excited to see the new trailer. We recently saw you a couple weeks ago at your dinosaur encounter in Kalamazoo. My son Ezekiel had a question for you. He wanted to know how people and the dinosaurs coexisted. So this leads us into the second segment of the show tonight, which is about your dinosaur encounters. So this is Ezekiel wants to know, how do people and dinosaurs coexist?
Yeah, it's a great question and it's a great topic. And the reason why we even do this event, which we started probably about 6 or 7 years ago touring this show, was because the kids had so many questions on this topic. And also because if you really think about it, the dinosaur topic in general is very one-sided on our planet. When most people hear about dinosaurs, it is always pretty much one view. They lived millions of years ago, they evolved over millions of years, and that there is no God. So these three things are just ingrained in the kids everywhere they look, because this is on TV, movies, books, school, everywhere. It's this one-sided topic, which if you really think about it and you interpret, it's a direct attack on God and the Bible. So we tried to tackle this topic, which unfortunately is not often addressed enough within the church setting, leaving kids with questions, leaving kids with doubts. And as you get more involved with children's ministries, that is one of the most dangerous things. You could have a kid have doubts that fester, questions that go unanswered, just that becomes a huge problem. So I'm a firm believer that even if we don't have every single answer, we've got to bring it up. We've got to talk about it. You got to get it out in the open, talk about what we do know, admit what we don't know. And with the dinosaur topic, there's a lot we don't know. But this event that we've been touring now for like 6 or 7 years, we've done shows in probably about 120 cities over 5 or 6 countries. Basically takes a 90-minute stage show and unpacks a lot of the evidence that we see in the Bible, in nature, in history, in nature, and all these places in literature, and get us to come to an understanding of when they lived, how did they come by, what happened to them. So we do unpack all these questions. And to answer Ezekiel's question directly, one of the parts of the show pretty much kind of gives us a strong clue of the coexisting part, which is the belief that the flood happened. It's a hugely prominent story in the Bible.
That's right.
And this event that would have buried and flooded the whole world, so buried all the creatures, buried all the plants and animals, why we see so many fossils, why we see so many things buried under the ground, including dinosaurs. Which takes us back to the basic concept that at least we would know for sure that at the time of the flood, dinosaurs would have been alive.
Yeah.
Because not only them, everything on the planet got buried in layers under the ground. Whether, like I said, it was animals, dinosaurs, birds, trees, plants, whatever, it's all buried neatly underground by some sort of global water catastrophe. So just by doing a little bit of math, we can see that
they coexisted.
It would appear that at least up till the moment of the flood, they were coexisting.
I really like how you engage the young people, and especially you even make honors for like the Pathfinders, for example, and I think adventurers as well. But what I find interesting is that it's also adults, because sometimes I get questions even on dinosaurs, and it's the adults that also have questions. And if I think about it, even my grandparents, they grew up thinking dinosaurs didn't even exist.
Right.
And now we have all this, new science, and science may change, but God's word never changes. And so we know that we can use the Bible as trustworthy. So,
yeah. And of course, the next step is to then get the word out. And that's part of the work that we try to do as a ministry, is how do we engage the kids on the topic. So that's why we do the live shows. We have episodes on different TV programs or whatever to address the topic. So the movie, which we'll be premiering the little trailer for later, also hints in that direction. I won't talk about it yet, but also created with that specific thing in mind, is to help kids become well-versed at explaining something, especially when they get challenged in public. So they need to be able to intelligently respond and be able to understand. And the interesting thing about our events is sometimes we literally get 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds that are there, and they're not going to understand every single tiny detail of what we're talking about. But if I can just get them to understand 10% of it, 20% of it, it's the beginning of being involved and knowledgeable on the topic, so that they see that, yeah, we're talking about this. Yeah, there's evidence in favor of the young earth and the God, the creator, that he's real, and that, push back against evolution. So all these concepts are important even from a very young age.
Yeah, they're vitally important. I wrote down something that you talked about, I really liked, about how it's important to talk about doubts. So many times we think, oh, I shouldn't think that, or I shouldn't question that. And I think then as you grow, they fester, as you talked about, instead of getting it in the open and being able to explore. So that's really healthy.
Yeah, and that's necessary. So, I'd like to encourage the parents, if you get an opportunity to talk to your kids about something that they just need information on, instead of trying to sweep it under the carpet, it's important to just, bring it out in the open. If you don't know the answer to every single thing, that's okay. That's okay, but you're talking about it.
You don't want kids to feel like they can't ask a question, because that could do the more damage of anything. And so I'm so thankful that my daughter will ask me any question. It's like no question should be buried. And if we can't answer the question, it's being honest and say, I honestly don't know, but I'll help you look for it too. Like let's look up the answer together. So I like that.
Yeah.
That mind frame. So
we're gonna continue touring.
Yeah, talk about the upcoming tour. You're going West Coast, right? So tell us about that.
So it's interesting because we've done the show on the West Coast, but we've done what I call the flying version, which it's enough gear that we can put on an airplane and do shows there. But in reality, the full-blown version of the show takes a whole trailer that we have.
Do you bring dinosaurs on?
I can't say, you're gonna have to come to it.
I know parts of it.
I didn't know that.
But the idea is to finally bring the full version of the show to the West Coast, which I've never done before.
Wow.
Which means I have to drive out there, which means I have to haul a trailer. So we are currently working with about 8 or 9 different conferences over there to bring the show to about 30 different cities in the fall. So we got a big tour lined up. So if you're anywhere from like Salt Lake City to Boise to Seattle, all the way down to LA,
California, Oregon,
and even into Arizona, and I think we're finishing up in New Mexico and West Texas.
Ooh.
So it's like a big C.
It's a big tour.
It's a big tour, so we hope to be able to help a lot of kids get answers, and adults as well. Like you said, a lot of adults are super curious about the topic as well. They've been wondering literally for decades. So hopefully we can bring some answers and some clarity and build faith at the end of the day. That's really also what we want to do, is build faith, so that anytime we get an opportunity to reduce doubts, it's the equivalent of building faith.
So that onemustardseed.com is the good place for you to actually see the schedules for these encounters.
Yep. So again, if you go to the main website, you'll scroll down and you'll see our link to the Dino Encounter website. And once we have the dates firm, they'll be posted on there. They're not there right now because we're still locking in the last few of the events. But soon, I'd say in the next few weeks, the tour will be officially set.
So this means you have a heads up, which is exciting. So you go to onemustardseed.com and you check it every week until the dates are launched and solidified, and then you know you have a trailer for this. So let's take a look at that right now.
Join me, Rich Aguilera, as we explore evidence from science, nature, history, and the Bible. What happened to the dinosaurs? When did they live? Did they really evolve over millions of years? What does the Bible say? I'd like to invite you and your family to join me for this Bible-based dinosaur encounter as we ask questions and search for the truth. Oh, and everyone gets 3D glasses. I hope to see you soon.
Well, I think we answered our question. I think you're going to see dinosaurs there. I saw them.
But you still need to go to the show.
I do, and I need my own 3D glasses to wear.
Right. That's right. It's kind of funny too, because the 3D glasses obviously is for a portion of the event that we have. So we hand them out at the beginning when kids and everybody's coming in, but it's so funny because everybody's wearing them at the beginning of the show. So the first thing that I got to say is like, you guys look great, but you don't have to wear them yet. But they're so excited to be there. They're so excited that we're doing something unique and special for kids. And that's part of the goal of what we're trying to do is we do want to communicate to the kids that we love them, that the church loves them, and that we're doing special events for them, and that we're helping them wrestle with topics that normally they don't get enough answers with. So we really go out of our way to make it a pretty fun event, as you can see with the trailer.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely.
I really like that, for sure. And so you have a lot more lined up after that, after the West Coast?
Yeah, so right now we are talking to Texas, for the eastern half of Texas, which would be Texas Conference, to do a continuation of the tour, which would now be early 2024, so February.
Awesome.
Texas obviously is a big state and there's lots of cities, so if you live in Texas, I'm coming at you in about a year.
That's super exciting. So we just got a text in. Here's another question. Why didn't the dinosaurs go into the ark and be saved from the flood? As we talked about, they probably coexisted, right before the flood, but why didn't they go in and why weren't they saved?
So am I telling them that you guys are going to have to come to the event?
Well, that is a good thing to say, but can you give us a sneak peek?
Yeah, for sure. And that definitely fits into one of those questions that we don't fully know.
Good.
If they were on the ark or not. And there's a huge assumption within a lot of groups that they were not on the ark. And it stems from some of Ellen G. White's writings where she writes about related topics. But if you actually explore the passages in detail, in context, and the entire couple of paragraphs, it is not as clear as a lot of people think that they definitely were not on the ark. Right. I think it's generally accepted that people think it just wasn't on the ark, but there are a lot of clues that would imply that they possibly were on the ark, and evidence that they would have lived after the flood, which if they lived after the flood, that would imply they survived on the ark somehow. So again, nothing yay or nay, 100% black and white answers, but we do talk about it. That is one of the points that we do talk about in the show and explore the different angles and possibilities and the what ifs of that question. And I always tell them in the show, is like, I got my list of questions that I'm going to ask God, and that's like
when
top
we get
3.
To heaven,
that's
absolutely.
like top 3 heaven questions. This is, where the dinosaur?
Yeah.
And see, science might change, again, how our views of what happens, but again, God's word never changes. So I'm so thankful that you're willing to even attack these questions that we don't know the answers to.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, see, what it does is it increases our faith in the validity of the Word of God. It discusses creation with young people, which is vitally important because we're thrown at with evolution, from so many different directions. So it's really important to bring that to the table. And plus, it's fun.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to see that? And that's exciting, and just to see that. So
the interesting thing about it is the topic is also very friendly for evangelism. So that's one of the things as we prepare and promote and stuff like that. This is a great opportunity for churches and for cities to use this as an evangelistic tool, because I've heard so many times that it's so hard to get visitors to come to church. And it's true, and maybe for a lot of people that's just a difficult first engagement. But if you can bring them to this fun show about a topic that everybody has questions about, that kids like, that adults like, and we get to present creation and these topics in a very show-friendly type of setting, it's a great opportunity to just have that be the first engagement where you can talk about something that doesn't necessarily have to be as heavy or religious, where a lot of people would be kind of put off by that. But this is kind of a great introductory way to just open up the topic a little bit and start discussing with friends, with people, with neighbors, whoever.
I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can get your Pathfinder Adventure honor with it too, connected with it.
Right. Yep. So there's a Pathfinder honor called Dinosaurs. I didn't write that one, but I did write the Adventure Award for honor for the adventurers, because they didn't have that, and I felt that it needed to be there because especially those little guys, those 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, they love dinosaurs.
That's the age group little boys tend to really soak up all these dinosaurs. Like, they seem to know every name of every kind of dinosaur, and they play with them. And I'm like, how do you know them all? And then even my daughter knew them all at age 4, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even know them all. So that's fun.
Yeah, they love dinosaurs, so great opportunity to be able to capture that, get their attention through that, and then be able to bring up.
I like how you're bringing the families in, because parents are coming with their families, and even if a parent is not so gung-ho about religious aspects, they will be open to what you're saying, the message that you're leading them into. So that's powerful.
That is powerful. So we talked about Kids Bible Zone, which launches tomorrow night on the 3ABN Kids Network, and of course has been going 3 years already with Primary Sabbath School, and the Dinosaur Encounter. Now let's talk about Bible Treasures, which already airs on 3ABN Kids Network, but let's talk about that program, and we'll see a little clip of that too. So tell us about the program a little bit before we go to the clip. Sorry.
Well, so
Rich is just nodding his head going, we're going to the trailer now, we're going to the trailer, and I'm thinking, no,
I'm waiting.
We're waiting for you.
Let's talk about it.
So Bible
just a little
Treasures, of course, is a program we produced, I think, the first 10 episodes several years ago, and they've been airing. And
Re-airing and re-airing.
re-airing, exactly. But we have some good news because there are 42 more episodes on the way. So 25 of them are just about done, and then I believe the other 17 are close behind after that. And it's super exciting to finally get some more of that through again, and love to have the kids on the show and the involvement and the artifacts and the stories and learning about geography and being on an adventure as we dive into the Bible, which of course we promote. The whole point is that the Bible is like a treasure chest full of amazing things that we can learn about. So it's pretty exciting to finally be providing a little bit more than just those first 10 episodes.
And you've had kids comment that they want to participate in
yes.
Bible Treasures, so that's wonderful too, because they have the excitement, like, I want to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that's exciting.
So now let's go take a look at that clip of Bible Treasures.
First things first, let's get this question in our journal.
Good idea.
Really
That's a good
question.
idea.
A problem with pride.
Good question. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what though? I think I have an idea.
What?
But we need an artifact.
Oh, yeah.
Nori, can you get one for us?
Yeah, what
I think
number?
it's 17D.
17D.
Yeah, I think that'll help us. I love how we bring our little props along and our little treasures along, and they
Yeah.
help us teach these lessons.
Found it.
Awesome.
What's
There it
that?
is. This is a building. It's called the Burj Khalifa, and it's located in a city called Dubai, in a country called the United Arab Emirates.
Isn't it the tallest building in the world?
It is the tallest building in the world.
Yeah.
Hey, Sam, can you show us on the map where Dubai is?
Sure.
I want to know.
It's right here.
There it is.
Yep, that's it.
That's exciting. I want to go over to Dubai. I noticed that travel is connected in a lot of the videos you do. Why
Yeah.
is that?
Well, I love to travel. So I grew up doing a lot of traveling, and when I got old enough to be able to do some of that on my own, I found out that if I can combine that with children's ministries, it's a great way to get kids' attention. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about, 21st century kids. How do we get their attention? Just talking to them is just not enough anymore. No. So any little tool that I can use to connect with them, to engage them, to get them excited, which is why there's basically a couple of very obvious recurring themes in what I do, which is travel and nature and adventure. And these are the three trifecta tools that I use to try to connect with kids, because with one of those three, I should be able to kind of present some sort of exciting angle. Or here's, nature, of course, is God's second book. So take a look at these amazing things that God has made, or take a look at these incredible locations and this amazing mountain or whatever. So these are part of the tools that I've been able to kind of put in my tool belt to be able to engage with kids. So traveling then has become a big part of that. And since I get a lot of opportunity to travel, to shoot, to do events for a variety of reasons, I try to double up.
Yes.
And if I'm at a place, not necessarily to shoot, I will make sure that I'm also shooting at that location.
Recording.
Recording.
Right.
So that I can bring back footage for one of the various programs that we're working on.
Absolutely.
That's very good.
Now, Bible Treasures airs on Kids Network, and it airs on 3ABN Parent Network and several. So
It does.
talk to us about that.
At Kids Network, it airs so many times, almost every day. But I will say on Fridays it's at 8:45 a.m. and then at 8 p.m. This is again Central Time, and then on Sabbath at 3 p.m. In the afternoon. So.
Which is why you need another 42 episodes.
Yeah, we do air quite a few. So, and we have to keep in mind that there's people in like Australia that are in a totally different time zone. So some of them air like at 3 o'clock in the morning, or different times like that. But yeah, we air many of them.
Got to watch out for those people on the top of the world.
Yeah.
See? That's right. So here's another question. I didn't ask this one before, and then we'll go to the books here. What has been the most exciting adventure you have been on? And this is kind of connected with it. Have you ever been lost on one of your adventures? Did you ever get lost? So what's the most exciting adventure, and did you ever get lost?
So probably one of the most exciting adventures. I know that you guys show the creation case on the network quite a bit, and
it's a great program.
One of the days that we had to shoot was to climb Mount St. Helens, which is a volcano in Washington State, and that was an all-day adventure and very difficult to pull off. And it's kind of funny because you watch the episode and it's like, oh, Rich is just going up and climbing a mountain. And what people don't know, that it was like this 20-hour ordeal. It was very painful. It was very difficult. The amount of gear and the amount of stuff that we had to haul up that mountain, because and that's one of those places where, did you shoot that on a green screen? I'm like, no, I really did that. It was hard. And we finally made it, to the edge of the crater at like 8:30 at night. And of course, people are like,
you still have to get
and we
back.
have to get down.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I always tell them, but we made it down in 1 hour.
How did that happen?
The sating?
So you're going to have to watch the episode. but Francine already said it. So
sorry. I know my husband's done it. I haven't tried it. I'm not brave enough.
There's a sport. I don't know if it's a sport, but it's an activity where it's called glissading. And you basically sit down on the snowpack, because at the top it's snow. And you basically slide all the way down on your bottom.
Just make sure there's no cliff.
That's right.
Yeah.
And no rocks to hit. So our guide...
Don't try this at home.
Exactly. And we had a guide that guided us down, because there's these huge boulders as you're sliding down the mountain, because the top of the mountain is really steep. So all you do is sit down and gravity takes you down. So
I'd be too scared to try that. That'd be
too.
just too fast for me.
And boy, as for lost too, I'm pretty sure...
You never got lost?
Not for too long, I don't think. I think I'm pretty good at being oriented and map reading and stuff like that.
You have your compass, your GPS.
Got my compass, got the GPS. So I don't think I've ever gotten lost for more than a minute or two, because my batteries ran out or something.
Yeah. But I like how you also include the map, because that makes it relevant to the kids, because there's so many times where we have stories that take place in these ornate places, but if you can't tie it into a map, the kids can't even find it on a geography or on the globe. Yeah. I mean, what use is it? So it's nice that you've attached it to a map. And
the world has become such a global place that it's important to not just focus on your own little bubble.
Yeah.
And everything is just like this one spot that I live in. There's a big, diverse world, and we need to be open to seeing what it's like, accepting of the cultures and the differences, and embracing that. And oftentimes that's portrayed as something that's horrible, that's different. You're the enemy because you're different. I'm like, no, we're going to break that down by saying, look at all these other amazing, wonderful places. They're just as regular and normal, and these are real people, and God loves them too. And it's cool to be different. There's nothing wrong with being different. It's cool to have variety. God made variety.
Right.
I mean, how boring would it be if we all looked exactly the same, right?
Right.
So, we celebrate variety, which again is countercultural nowadays, because oftentimes you're different, oh, that's bad. So as Christians, we push back on those ideas because we love everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a stack of books here in front, and I know we carry a lot of your books in the call center here at 3ABN in our 3ABN call center. But One Mustard Seed has produced some incredible evangelistic tools for young people in the form of books and reading material. So talk to us about the books we got here.
Yeah, so a couple of different styles of writing that you can say. So like I mentioned earlier, adventure is one of my tools. And so our devotional book, which has been out for about 5 years, is about 365 of my travel adventures, which are rolled into lessons and stories and applications that kids can grow from every single day. Nature would be kind of these two. I'm part of my toolbox again, Ridiculously Amazing Nature and the Mud Book. This is basically taking a close-up look at God's amazing nature and just being in awe and amazed by the detail and the complexity, and again, push back on evolution, because evolution has one believe that everything just happened by itself. I'm like, well, how do you explain so much detail and complexity? And then the story, the adventure is kind of what we've tried to do with our Bible Time Adventure series. And as you can see, I'll try to fan out the 5 books that we have in the series right now. And the whole Bible Time Adventure concept, you know, trying to go back to this idea of how do we get kids to want to read Bible stories? Because historically speaking, Bible stories have always been first person, adult point of view. And sometimes they're rewritten kids' point of view. But I was like, okay, you know, how can I use my creativity to come up with a different way of telling kids Bible stories? So I came up with this idea of writing Bible stories from the point of view of a couple of kids, fictional kids, that were there. They saw it. They witnessed it. They were along for the whole ride, and they saw piece by piece. So we get to see the story from kids' point of view, and it's the true Bible story, but we're just seeing it from the kids' point of view, which of course then allows the creative person to write in a bunch of little adventures and mysteries and things that they're trying to figure out. How are we going to get there? What's going to happen to Queen Esther? You know, whatever. So it really is a fun combination way of telling a Bible story from the point of view of some kids that were there.
So the 5 books, and they feature what 5 different Bible stories?
Yeah, so Firewalkers is the story of Elijah. And then there's Fire from the... I got that wrong.
That would be Shadrach,
Meshach, and Abednego.
I was going to say, do I have my Bible story wrong?
Then Fire from the Sky is the story of Elijah.
Yes, on Mount Carmel.
On Mount Carmel, yep. And then The Queen's Crisis is the story of Queen Esther. Yep. And then at this point, I have made a little change in the series. So now I'm writing in series. So the next 2 are actually part 1 of Joseph, which is the favorite son, and part 2, which is called The Faithful Slave. And so part 3 and part 4 are about to come out soon, which would complete the story of Joseph. And then I'm already, at this point, working on the next series, which I'm not going to say yet. It's going to be a mystery. It's Moses. Oh, sorry.
Moses? Did I hear that? Did you hear that?
There's going to be several books on that, too, because I can just see a lot of them going on that one.
It slipped out.
More coming.
But hopefully, you know, this creates kind of a fun, engaging way for kids to interact with the story by seeing it, like I said, from a kid's point of view, throwing in some adventure and some creativity, and they can really engage with the story.
What I like about what you're doing is there's several kids that have written to me and said, I want to be a writer, I want to be able to write stories, and how should I go about it? And so it's nice because I can lead them to some of your books or some other authors, you know, that give that kind of point of view, because these are powerful, because kids are interested in writing too, and that helps them with their creativity. So even when they're writing for school or whatnot, this is a prime example that kids have needed and longed for a long time, I would say.
Yeah, and I've run into lots of kids that have just amazing writing talent. We just have to figure out how we can plug them in and get them to use their talents. And even if you start small and then grow, we've got to provide opportunities for them.
And it makes the Bible come alive. You know, when you read that and it comes alive and you feel like, oh, I could be the kid in that story, and you see what's happening. And we carry these at our 3ABN call center. That's right. You can go online, 3abnstore.com, and you can just order the books right now, or you can always give us a call during regular business hours, and we'd be delighted to get those books in your hands, and you can share them, which is an incredible blessing. I just want to know, as you were talking, I'm just thinking, how do you have time in a day, Rich? Like, you're right, and you're thinking, oh, I got this series, and I got this other series coming up, and you're traveling, and you're trying to produce, you know, Sabbath School episodes every week, and you're doing dinosaur encounters, and we haven't gotten to half of it yet. So
we're still in the first half of the show.
Did your mom have trouble making you sit when you were a kid?
Yeah, I had problems. I was that kid. I remember, you know, I joke with people, you know, when I was a kid, and you go to those parent-teacher conferences, you know, I was like, yeah, this Rich guy, he's a, you know, overly creative, over imagination. That was always kind of what the assessment was. And so basically I try to funnel that, obviously, to give God glory and put the passion into honoring God. So the gift of creativity is something that I feel like that God has given me, and so I need to use it. And it's almost a problem sometimes because, you know, and I always thought everybody was like that. Just everybody had ideas, everybody was creative, and then you know, I remember when I was little, my mom's like, how do you come up with these ideas? And I was like, doesn't everybody do that? And I discovered later that that's not the case, and that the way that my brain works, like everybody else's, is totally different.
Right.
And for me, it's this just non-stop barrage of ideas.
Wow.
But I think kids in general should be very creative and always playing. And I think that's sometimes where some of us adults have hindered the kids, because we expect them to sit still for X amount of time, especially at school, and they need that time to be playful, to be energetic, and to be creative. And sometimes we don't allow them to do that.
Right.
And so I mean, kudos to you, because you've been able to channel that and be an inspiration for a lot of kids. So
We're trying.
Yeah. So do you wake up at night with ideas, or do you have trouble going to sleep at night because you got so many ideas going on?
It's a problem. It's a problem. I do wake up at night with ideas, and I have I either
Journal.
jot them on my
keep-
phone,
yeah.
or because they sometimes come in the middle of a dream, or, it's kind of funny, some of the strangest places where I get my ideas. For example, here's a secret. One of the best places that I get my ideas, cutting grass.
Really? Greg would agree with you, my husband Greg, because he always says, when I mow the lawn, Jilly, I just get ideas for, whether it's a creative idea or how to solve a problem or how to fix something. He always says he loves mowing because his mind's working.
Yeah, and I'm not, because a lot of people listen to stuff while they're mowing, whatever, but, this is my time to I'm like totally zoned out, and my mind can be free to just wander.
and you're back out in nature,
Yep.
not having to really think. You're able to be creative.
Yep.
I like that.
And for that hour, my mind just wanders, and it's kind of fun, just coming up with ideas, and then of course, I got to remember and run inside and write them down.
So mow the lawn. It's not such a bad idea after all.
Cut your grass
Maybe
every
I'm
single
gonna
day.
tell my husband it's my turn to mow the lawn.
I'm out there in the middle of the winter. I got to cut grass.
You can snow blow and snow plow. Maybe it has the same effect. We have a full another hour coming up of children's evangelism with One Mustard Seed and our very own Rich Aguilera. I've been so blessed the first hour, just hearing the stories and seeing how God is using you in ministry and his creativity. Want to remind you that you can text in your questions or your prayer needs to us here tonight at 618-228-3975. That's 618-228-3975. Or you can email us at live@3abn.tv. We're just getting started. I have a whole 2 pages of notes here for tonight, so we're just getting started. We have a lot more exciting things coming up in the second hour. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Sometimes the 2-minute break is even more exciting than what you get to watch on air. So one of these days, we'll do a behind the scenes where it keeps rolling and you can see what happens truly behind the scenes. I'm Jill Morikone. We're so delighted that you joined us for this Thursday night live program as we talk with Rich Aguilera, the president of One Mustard Seed. And he is a creative, Francine, could we say this? A creative genius. Would you say so?
I would say so, because he thinks outside the box, and I mean, I can't fathom how he puts it all together and is able to produce what he does. It's amazing.
It is.
I mean, God is definitely with you, and we see that.
Praise the Lord.
Giving you.
It's just a privilege that I can channel all that for something that is so meaningful as serving God.
Amen, amen. So we talked about One Mustard Seed, and we've been referencing the website the whole program, and that is where you can find the links to all the different things that we're talking about here tonight. It's a one-stop shop, and it will lead you on a travel adventure to many different websites. OneMustardSeed.com. Where did you come up with the name One Mustard Seed?
Well, it had to do with our beginnings, which, as I mentioned earlier on the show, I did architecture for 16 years as the first part of my career. Hoping that it would fulfill my creative needs, but it didn't. And then through a whole nother episode of talking and what happened, I was compelled to start a ministry, which then meant I had to come up with a name.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought of was, I'm really shutting down my architecture practice to take a massive leap of faith, because it's not like somebody offered me a job or I had clarity on what I was going to do. Right. It was a total leap of faith to just say, I'm going to serve God now with all my time, with all my energy. Yeah. What do I call this thing? Yeah. And so I thought mustard seed, which is a symbol of faith. But then I thought, let me zoom in on this a little bit more, because really, to get that big mustard tree to grow, you just need one tiny mustard seed. Yeah. And that's what I felt myself could be, one tiny mustard seed for God that can hopefully do a big giant thing for God. So one mustard seed.
And he's blessed you because of that.
Praise the Lord.
Amen, absolutely. So one mustard seed, are you a 501c3 organization? I should have asked you this before.
No.
No, not a nonprofit, okay. No. Okay, but people can donate.
They can definitely support and help us do the work.
Perfect. So if you want to donate, if you want to support, we believe in what God is doing in and through Rich and One Mustard Seed for young people and for evangelism for young people. Get them into the Word and into nature and into travel and adventure, your three-pronged approach. I love that. So you can support One Mustard Seed by going online to onemustardseed.com, and you can donate that way and support the ministry there. Let's talk a little bit about another prong, I guess we could say, and this is Week of Prayer. So talk to us about Week of Prayer and what even led to this and the impetus for that.
Yeah, so obviously when you're working with kids, that also means you have a certain amount of engagement with schools, especially our church schools. And so I would get a lot of invitations to engage the schools and do events and all sorts of things. And in the process of that, I discovered, and this is only a few years ago, that a great amount of our schools are what I would call medium to small. And what I also discovered in the process was that they're all encouraged to have these Week of Prayer events, usually one at the beginning of the year, one towards the end of the year, and that this is part of what's expected out of the church schools. And as I talked to people, I found out that with the great majority of the schools being small and medium, they had a challenge of providing a meaningful speaker for their kids, because some of these schools are in very remote locations, hard and expensive to be bringing in, speakers and people that would be dynamic and exciting for the kids and engaging the kids. So what would often happen is they would just ask a local person, a retired pastor or somebody else, to just come in and speak to the kids. And I was getting a lot of feedback saying, yeah, wow, we would just love to have Rich come out for a Week of Prayer, but he's not going to come all the way over here. It's too complicated to go there or whatever.
You can't be everywhere at once?
You can't be everywhere at once.
You haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Exactly. But then around the time of the pandemic, when it became a lot more acceptable to appear virtually, I decided, hey, what if I could appear virtually for these schools? So I came up with the idea of creating a Week of Prayer experience where I would produce 5 distinct events, which would be played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at the schools during their assembly.
I see that graphic, weekofprayeronline.com. I love that.
Yep.
Okay.
And so basically they would go on our website and be able to have access to the 5 episodes. And it's not just the 5 episodes that they're watching, it's also content so that they could prepare the rest of the program. So with the kids that are there in person, I provide, hey, this is the Bible verse that we're featuring today, that our story is talking about today. This is our prayer group that we're going to be focusing our prayers on today. So every day there would be something different. So it's the video plus the material that they need around it to create a meaningful Week of Prayer experience virtually, at least my part, being able to engage and tell stories and have the message virtually. And so the idea that we have is that we're going to produce one every single year.
Wow.
So, the feedback that we've gotten from the schools is that we would love to have at least one of them be virtual, and the other one can still be an in-person human that would come in and talk to them.
We are virtual humans.
Exactly. But then the other one that, I found out a lot of the churches, schools are very open to the idea of having one virtual event where it's, I get to be there with the kids and be exciting. And in some cases, I've actually even done a quick Zoom with the kids live or sent them a custom little video just to their school. So if I can do something like that also to kind of customize the experience, the Week of Prayer experience for them, I'm happy to do that as well.
I would love that. I would have loved that as a teacher because I was a teacher for 8 years in a one-room classroom. And there in Michigan, there is a lot of schools that are just small schools. And I know around the United States, we have a lot of small schools, and this is vital. I mean, it brings it alive again. And I know my daughter enjoyed having it here in Thompsonville. They did a series, and she really liked how you had the stories also that tied into the Bible.
I think a lot of people aren't aware that literally there are hundreds of small schools.
And it's just under $100, I think, or something like that.
$99
So it's really
for the whole
affordable for these schools, these small schools, to be able to incorporate this in their programs.
So as the years pass, hopefully then obviously there would be more series to pick from.
Right.
The first one that we did last year was called The Greatest Adventure. So we're about half done shooting the one that we're planning on releasing here in the fall. So
And
then
what's that one on? A sneak peek, something?
the last one, the first one?
The one now that you're doing.
Oh, I can't say.
Oh.
Spoil it.
But
I do feature a story.
Story.
A story, and it has to do with my visit. I don't know how much I should say. I don't want to be a spoiler, but I'll tell you this much.
Okay.
I was in West Berlin when the wall came down.
You were really?
I climbed the wall.
Really?
Just a fluke accident. This is the year that I was studying in France.
Wow.
And timing just worked out perfectly that I was in West Berlin and experienced that firsthand.
Oh,
So
that's amazing.
This second series is revolving around that experience.
Wow.
I like how you tie in, because it's supposed to be a week of prayer, and you're focusing on what we should pray for on these different days. And I think that's powerful, because we want to get the kids, again, focus on praying for others.
Yeah, and that's the powerful thing of prayer is, we call it Week of Prayer, but sometimes we forget about the prayer element.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I try to do as part of the Week of Prayer resource is let's hone in very specifically on these 5 groups, people groups, whether it's pastors and teachers, or first responders and fire people and nurses and doctors, or the missionaries, and so every day there's a special group that we're really focusing in on to pray for and to pray about.
Yeah, that's powerful. This just came in from Florida. What is your most favorite country that you have visited, and why?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Or maybe pick a couple top favorites.
Yeah, that's more fair. That's more fair. That's such a hard question.
That is.
But there are some standouts, I guess, and I think for me, if I had to pick 3, I'd have to say New Zealand, and Iceland, and probably Botswana.
Wow. And why? Why those 3? Why do they stand out to you?
In New Zealand, the nature is just amazing, at least for my particular taste, with mountains and glacier and snow and fjords and this whole thing. Iceland, very similar. I for some reason, really drawn to this whole volcanic thing. And the landscape there is so different, and the mountains, the hot springs, and just amazing, so different. And then Botswana, I think, which impressed me a lot, was that we spent pretty much most of our time on safari.
Oh.
So seeing the animals in their natural habitat is so different than seeing them, for example, in a zoo.
You see like elephants, giraffes.
Exactly. You see everything just running around, and and it's not like 1 or 2. I was telling Francine earlier, I'm like, you go to a zoo and you see an elephant, maybe 2. But then out there, you're driving around and suddenly 40 go by.
Woo! That's amazing.
They're engaging totally different, because they're this family of elephants that's moving through the savannah. And you can literally see personalities, and it's just amazing. It's easy to be able to discern which one's the matriarch, and it's just so cool to see them in their natural habitat. It's so different.
I love that. Here's another question. How big is your production crew?
Ooh, all right.
You do a lot of recording.
I do. It varies from show to show, or whatever it is that I'm doing will require. I think the most I've ever had was me plus 4.
Okay.
And the smallest has been 0. I have a setup where I shoot myself and record, self-mic myself, and I do the whole thing by myself. So between 0 and 4.
Most of the time,
a lot of it is like that.
Yourself.
Yeah, and of course, when you're going to some of these places that are so remote and so hard to get to, the idea of coming out and bringing a full crew is not possible. And a lot of the stuff can be spontaneous too.
Right.
So you got to be ready at all times to pull out your camera and start filming.
Capture that moment.
That's right.
Yeah, you got to be instant in season. So going back to the Week of Prayer for just one moment, you said the first Week of Prayer was The Greatest Adventure.
Yeah.
And what story is that focused around?
So I had this very unique adventure the first time I went to Egypt. And so it's basically what happened to me and all the different pieces of that episode, each one with a distinct, unique lesson that I learned and things that happened on that trip, an eye-opening experience. So I share, obviously, the details. And if you haven't figured it out already, the central part of the week of prayer is using stories. Yeah. And I think story is powerful, just as I mentioned earlier with the books, and we're going to talk in a little bit about movies. It's all the same thing. It's stories. And why so many stories? And I totally stole that from Jesus. Because
parables.
Yeah. Yep. Jesus' favorite way of teaching was stories. So I'm borrowing from him. One of, from his playbook is storytelling. Everybody loves stories. Everybody engages with a story. So if I can tell stories, get their attention, and then apply a lesson, that's the way that we try to teach and engage people.
That's powerful.
Why do you think stories are, I know people identify with that, but why do you think?
I think just because they relate to them. It's something that happened to them, so it's like, yeah, that happened to me, or yeah, I went to that exact same spot. Because my stories aren't always from some wild, crazy place. It could be, when I ran into a bison, in some national park, and they're like,
that's still kind of wild and crazy.
Exactly.
That is a little.
Or I say a place and they've been there. That's always a big thing. When the devotional book first came out, I had a lot of people that told me that they put a map on the wall and they would track the places that I was at, and then when it was a place that they had been to, that was extra special because they're like, yeah, I saw the exact same thing, and I guess they get excited because they have this connection point, and it's all because of story. The story of when I went there is similar to the story of when they went there. And of course, by having variety of stories, I can relate to the kids that's in Australia or the kids that are in the UK or whatever, because I was there and I was there and I was there. So they each have connection points where we can relate on.
Yeah. And it gives that mental picture, I think, also, as you envision a little bit, you put yourself or identify, like you said, in these stories, and so in your mind you almost picture a similar situation. And I think that's why it's so powerful, that storytelling or parables are very important, even to young people, and adults like them too.
Oh,
like
yes.
Stories.
Me too. I like stories. Absolutely. So this Week of Prayer online, you can just go to onemustardseed.com and you can get the information about the Week of Prayer online. If you're a school, maybe homeschool groups could do it as well.
Absolutely. I've even had churches use the resource parallel to like an evangelistic meeting or something. So we've seen a whole bunch of different uses. So as long as they can figure out how to put 5 different episodes or days into an event, it can be used for a variety of different things.
It works. I love that. Yep. Let's switch gears. We've been talking video. We've been talking virtual. What about podcasts? Talk about your podcasts and what got you into podcasting.
Well, from the very beginning when we started One Mustard Seed, my idea and what I propose to God is I want to reach as many people as possible, and I'll walk through whatever door you open. Yeah. So as we've kind of progressed with our ministry work, we've tried, doing video, we've tried doing writing, we've tried doing events. So at some point you start asking, like, what other spaces exist where I can also reach people? And so it's probably been 2 years ago or something, this idea was born of, what if we do a radio show or a podcast, which nowadays are parallel. And so it was like, okay, the audio space, the listening space, you can reach different. Now there's, devices where people can listen on demand, not just waiting for the show at 7:30 p.m. I have to be at,
Right.
So we decided to experiment into that space. And then of course the challenge was how and what to do, because typically a lot of the kids' religious programming is stories. Yeah. Which again, I'm a huge fan of and supporter of, but I was trying to think, okay, what can I do that's different? That they got enough stories, maybe a different approach. So our podcast, which is called God's Great Earth, takes on a totally different approach. It's a variety program. So we have a whole bunch of segments. There's probably, I think, 12, 13, 14 different segments within the half-hour time slot.
Oh, wow.
And we have our nature segment, we have our history segment, and I have my travel adventure story, and then we have our silly minute, and then there's a game show, and we have a brain teaser, and we have this thing called a What's It. And the centerpiece, I'd say, of
I know.
what's it? What's it? So,
Like, what is it?
Guess.
yeah. Oh, what is it? So basically, for that segment, I play a sound of something that God made, an animal or something in nature that God made, and the kids, I give it to them at the beginning of the episode, and the kids have to listen to it and try to figure out what the sound came from.
Oh, that's fun.
So then at the end of the episode, I reveal the answer. What it was. It was a fruit bat, whatever it was, making the noise. So that's a what's it. I just kind of made up that word.
That came when you were mowing the lawn.
Exactly. So, but the centerpiece of the show is what I call the pretend-o-matic. And that was my excuse to use my imagination and pretend world, which kids love to pretend.
Oh yeah, make believe.
To make believe that I have this pretend time machine that I go back and I talk to Bible characters. And so I literally go into my pretend time machine and I go back and talk to a Bible character and I ask them questions. And, hearing a Bible story from the point of view of literally talking to the Bible character tell their own story is a very different way to hear a Bible story versus we always, are told about a Bible story and he did this and she did that and this happened to them. And I was like, what happens if we actually hear it straight from them? So that's the kind of the centerpiece, the meat and potatoes of each episode is our pretend-o-matic when I go back to our pretend-o-matic and talk to the Bible hero that is featured in that episode.
I like how you can do it on podcasts because when you're traveling, that's easier to do when you just load up your phone and hook it up to your car, for example, and your family can listen to a podcast whenever you want to. So I really like that ability.
Yeah. And they can listen to it anywhere on a road trip, before going to bed, on the way to school, and it's everywhere. I mean, we've gotten some incredible feedback of some of the places using some of the analytics that's available now, where people are listening to in Indonesia and United Arab Emirates and Lebanon and just amazing places. I'm like, wow, which to me is an inspiration because you can do whatever you want and there's ways to connect with people everywhere if you're just willing to try, experiment, be creative and get the word out. There's so many tools available now to reach people and anybody can do this.
I know our world has changed so much because of technology. So because of podcasts or, or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, or there's so many ways that you can just live stream. I mean, who even knew that you could do that or you could connect with people around the world? So that is amazing. You brought an audio clip. From God's Great Earth. Which particular episode is this clip from?
So in this particular episode, I am going in my pretend-o-matic to talk to Gideon. So I'm about to, for the second half of the show, because I do two segments with pretend-o-matic. So in this particular segment that I brought is I'm going back to talk to Gideon a little bit more.
All right, so we're going to listen to that right now and go back in the pretend-o-matic. I like that word. That's a fun word. And talk to Gideon.
Okay, let's get back to the pretend-o-matic and our talk with Gideon. I'm really confused about this disappearing army. Okay, Gideon, I'm really confused here. You're telling me that a couple of days ago you had 32,000 soldiers here?
That's right.
And clearly they're gone. Please, tell me what happened to them.
Well, once the entire army was assembled, and what a huge army it was.
Yeah, wow, I mean, right, 32,000, that is a huge army.
I agree. But when the army was assembled, God talked to me.
Oh boy, what did he say this time?
He said the army was too big.
Too big?
Yep, too big.
How could that be? I mean, don't you want as many soldiers as possible in order to defeat the enemy? That seems to kind of be the way to win a battle, I would say.
Right, I agree. That is how you win a battle, if you don't have God with you.
Aha, I see. Okay, what did he say?
He said if we go into battle with so many soldiers, the people of Israel are going to think that the soldiers won, because they were powerful.
Right, and that's not the goal?
No. God wanted the people of Israel to return to God. So God really wanted to make a point here.
And what was that?
That it was God who would deliver us from Midian.
That's powerful.
It
I
is.
love that.
I'm always amazed how he doesn't get confused between the characters.
I was trying to think, you're doing all the voices, right?
I do all the voices.
And you do all the different voices. So how do you know, like, oh, no, I'm doing this voice. No, I'm doing this voice.
Ah, those are production secrets. Yeah, it is kind of confusing. And of course, you're trying to figure out every time I introduce a new character. Now, for example, Gideon is not just one episode. So it'll probably it took me, because we've already finished the Gideon story, but it took, I think, nine different episodes of God's Great Earth to get his story fully out.
Right.
So we keep coming back and we get a little farther along in his story. And literally, when I'm writing it, I'm just got the Bible right next to me, and we're just going piece by piece, picking apart every single little detail of the story so that the kids don't miss a single thing. And we're, like I said, hearing it straight from Gideon himself or whoever the Bible character is that particular day.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
It is.
So how can people listen to the podcast? And I know most podcasts are just always available on podcast platforms.
Yeah, so there's every podcast platform out there has it, is hosting it, stuff, so they can go to whatever device they want to use, whatever podcast platform they want. There's also a handful of radio stations. Little by little, more and more radio stations are picking up the show and putting it on their networks. So there's a handful out there. Probably the best way to find the list of networks, we've listed it on the webpage. So because there are several interactive elements, so when I mentioned the Silly Minute is basically where kids get to submit their squeaky clean jokes.
Oh.
And so, I call it the halftime of the episode where we take a break and we get to be silly. So the kids are the ones literally sending me the jokes, and I share their jokes. The brain teaser is also something that the kids send to me.
Oh,
so there's several interactive elements where I'm trying to get them to engage me, and all that is accessible through the website, which is godsgreatearth.com, which of course can be accessed from the
onemustardseed.com.
Exactly.
We mention that all evening. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of the site where you can go and check and see the networks that are picking it up and playing it. And then, of course, there's links to the podcast platforms that are playing it.
Yeah.
Every week, one episode.
How many podcasts again do you think?
So
we have?
we've done 22 episodes so far.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Pretty good.
They're
That's
all
very
about
exciting.
25 minutes long or so.
Yeah. That's super exciting. Okay, another question came in. This came from Janice from Canada. Have you ever visited National Park and Rocky Mountains in Alberta, Canada?
I have.
Oh.
Yeah, loved it. In Banff and the Rocky part of in Canada, absolutely stunning and gorgeous. Did some camp meetings there in Alberta, so I got to sneak out and see that. So absolutely.
They have hot springs there too.
They do. It reminded me a lot of Colorado too, because you know how half of Colorado is mountains and then the other half is plains, and Alberta's almost the same. It's a lot of the plains and the cowboys and the whole thing, and then the amazing mountain ranges.
Yeah.
So love it, Janice.
That's wonderful.
I like the mountains myself, so if I could stay in the mountains, I'd be happy there too.
They're beautiful, aren't they?
They are.
Oh.
It reminds me how Jesus would often go to the hilltops and pray, and so I think there. And my husband always talks about how the sky seems bluer when you're up high, and so I don't know. There's something about the mountains and the fresh air out there that
They're
is
inspiring.
just beautiful.
They are, absolutely. I think just time in nature is healing and rejuvenating and draws us closer to God and reminds us of God. So that's powerful. Let's talk about, speaking of nature, this is going Middle East. Let's talk about the Holy Land, Israel. You're going to a Holy Land tour, so talk to us about
Well, as you've already observed, I do a lot of traveling, and so a lot of the kids are like, wow, we love the adventures that you go on, and then every once in a while I get a parent or kids that are like, can I go on the adventure with you? Can I just jump into your suitcase? So I've been thinking for a long time, like, wow, how could this work, where kids could go on an adventure with me? So came up with the idea of finally trying to lead out on a tour. And so the idea is that I would design a tour, and it would be unique. It would be catering towards active families.
Nice.
So we're trying to appeal to families that want to go on an adventure. And the first place that I kind of picked to try to do this is the Holy Land adventure. And the whole point is because the idea of bringing the Bible to life.
Yes.
So parents that want to, they make a very big priority in teaching the Bible, but what if we can also go there and see the places and see where Jesus walked and be baptized in the Jordan River where Jesus was baptized and do these adventures. So, kids, we're going to go swim in Hezekiah's tunnel. We can talk about the story, and then we're going to climb in the walls of Jerusalem, and we're going to, do all these different things. Climb up to Masada.
Yes. That's super exciting.
Go down and float in the Dead Sea and see where the scrolls were found. And, so we created this tour, active, again, and it's open for anybody can come, but we're really trying to cater it to active kids that probably maybe won't do so well going for 4 hours in a museum, or staring at a cathedral for 3 hours, or so it's a little faster paced, a lot more exciting. Every kid that comes along would get a hat so that they can have on the adventure, and they'd get their own journal to go on the adventure. And probably one of the other exciting parts of this tour that we're planning, which, by the way, is next March of 2024, is to have some recordings done, which would basically give the kids the opportunity to also not just be on the adventure, but to go on the show.
Yes.
Which would be cool. And we hope that this is something that you guys will obviously also be able to share with your viewers, have the kids be on the show, be on the episode. Here they are visiting all these amazing places in the Holy Land.
That's something that I've always wanted to do, is sometime go to Jerusalem and visit that, because that does make it alive, because I've heard so many people that have gone and they say, now I understand why Jesus was talking about this, and it just makes it come alive when you understand where Jesus was baptized maybe, or how he reached the people. So that is something on my, I have to say, bucket list.
So you've never been to Israel?
I have never been to Israel. So yeah, that's something that's special that you're doing.
It's very powerful to be there.
It is.
The
It's
exact
hugely
spots
powerful.
where these stories.
I was only there once. Sorry, in 2014, I guess it was.
Oh,
but
wow.
it was only once, but it was amazing. When I came back and I opened up Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you read it, and it was like, oh yeah, that's what the Sea of Galilee looks like, and that's what the Jordan River's like, and this is, I think Capernaum was one of my favorite places. I don't know why, but that really spoke to me.
And imagine capturing that awe, but giving it to kids as well.
Yes.
So that kids can grow up having been to the places that we spend so much time learning about, and to experience the same place. Again, the concept is to just bring the Bible to life and let them be able to experience these places as if they're not just some distant Bible story. I was there.
Yeah. What was your favorite place when you were there?
Or
several favorite.
I had a funny experience at the Wailing Wall.
Oh.
And then I also had an interesting experience, because at the time that I went, because I've only been there once, I was spending a summer in Jordan on a dig. And so one of the weekends, I was able to sneak over to Israel, and crossing the border, I had a little adventure. It's in the book, so if you
Okay.
Shameless pitch for the book. So getting over was a bit of an adventure into Jerusalem and up into Israel.
Yeah.
But very impressive to see these places firsthand in person.
And what happened at the Wailing Wall? You said the Wailing Wall you had.
Yeah. So when you go to the Wailing Wall,
they separate the men and the women.
They separate the men and the women. And
I remember I wasn't prepared for that. Like, oh wow, I can't go with Greg.
Yeah.
Like you separate, and the women go here, and the men go here.
Yep.
Yeah.
But for the men, you're also, when you approach the wall, you're required to wear the little, I forgot what it's called, the little cap. But I didn't have one. So they have.
But they had them there.
Well, paper ones. And it was a windy day. So I was trying to be as respectful and reverent and holy as possible. So I put my little hat on, but it flew off. And so here's Rich in one of the most sacred, holy places, and here's me running after my little hat, trying to step on it so that it wouldn't go farther, So I just felt really awkward, because it's such a holy setting, and there's Rich in the background chasing his little, paper hat and trying to step on it, and it keeps getting away, and I finally stepped on it, and I was just like, oh, everybody's looking at this guy, this, Westerner chasing his little hat.
See, again, we all are visioning it, and we can all identify, because I'm thinking of all these crazy things that I've done, and my husband can tell many stories like that where I've just, everybody's like staring at, oh, you've really done what?
And this is natural when you travel around and you're in new settings. And of course, this is an important part of traveling. You have to be adaptable and flexible and ready for anything. Because people think that it's, you thrive on predictability and the safety of knowing what's coming. When you go out there, it's an adventure. You got to be ready for anything, and you have to roll with it. Because a lot of people will just shut down if it's not the way that they wanted it or what they expected. I'm like, nope, got to embrace it and roll with it.
That's good.
Have fun.
I like that.
That's right.
Part of creativity, being willing to be flexible.
That's right. Turn it
is.
into an adventure.
Yes.
And with kids, you always have to be flexible. You can't be too structured, because you would zone them out in a heartbeat. So, yeah.
So let's go to the first ever trailer that we're going to launch tonight, right? This is
and by the way,
yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot to mention, I think there's a slide, or at least a lower third, I don't know if it got put on there already. So if people are interested in coming on our Holy Land adventure, there is a place that they can go, and in some information where they can get. There's you can text Rich Israel to a number that'll be on the screen there, and if they just want to get some information, text that to there, and they will just get some free information back so that they can get details and the website and information and a registration form and anything they need to get. I think we're even preparing here pretty soon like a Zoom call so that lots of questions can be answered, and plans of what we're planning on doing. So there is a limited amount of space as well on the tour. So and since it is families, we're hoping it's groups of 4 and 3 and 7 and whatever that'll come. So if you're interested in coming out and joining us on this adventure, please text Rich Israel to that number as soon as you can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing that out, because we were supposed to do that, so thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention the number here just because some people might be listening on the radio and they wouldn't have seen that number. So you can text Rich Israel, that's R-I-C-H, and then just the word Israel, I-S-R-A-E-L. And the number you text it to is 914-804-5699. That number again is 914-804-5699. So you just text the word Rich Israel to that number, and they'll connect you. Can they also get information on onemustardseed.com about it?
I think I need to update that particular link, but within 24 hours.
So it's
we'll
not there.
that.
It's not there tonight, but it will be soon. So you can always get that there too. Okay, perfect. So now let's go. You've already produced one movie. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us about the first movie, and then we're going to talk about the second, the brand new one coming.
Yeah. So about I think it's about 5 years ago, I produced a movie called The Mysterious Note, and it came out. It was a challenging project because I'd never produced a movie before, and I was also the screenwriter and the director. So, you have to kind of wear a lot of hats and figure things out. I felt like this was an important space to enter and to have an offering because, again, this concept of storytelling, in our culture, there is probably no more powerful setting than a movie to tell a story. Movies are wildly popular. I think the statistic I last heard was in just North America alone, 1.6 billion tickets sold to go see a movie.
Wow.
People paying to go see a movie. They want a story. And I thought, wow, why can't the church use this space more to tell stories that give God glory and give God honor and help people build their faith? And especially in my particular case, because of my passion for ministering to kids, it would be stories that are family friendly.
Yeah.
Because even in the Christian film world, it is challenging.
It is.
Most, if not all, of the Christian films being made today are really geared towards an adult or at best a youth viewer. And a lot of them are probably acceptable enough for kids to watch, but they're not targeting kids by any means. And a lot of the topics are really heavy, very dramatic, and people dying and people, suicide and this and that, whatever. I'm like, this is not family friendly. I guess they can watch it, but it's not for kids. So my idea was to serve that particular niche with Christian stories that could target kids and family. I grew up in the 70s when Disney used to make different kind of movies that were more fun and slapstick and a lot more innocent. And so I was trying to figure out, they've changed a lot. So I was trying to figure out, how do I capture that? It's fun, silly, adventure, but with a distinct, clear spiritual point. So that's kind of what we try to do with the mysterious note. And we're happy how it turned out. It won some awards, so we're super happy with what we learned from there. And then, of course, the big question was, are you going to do another one? And so
that's always a question when people like it, when they find something they connect with, when they like, is there another one coming?
Yeah, and so that was a question that went unanswered for several years, because for me, I took a massive leap of faith, and it ended up being a giant volunteer job to create this, because it never, financially speaking, pays itself off. It's very complicated to do that. So since I'm a for-profit, technically, I'm trying to figure out, okay, I want to do these things that give God glory, but I need to find a financial mechanism to do it. So even though the Mysterious Note was a great project and everything, it was not able to fulfill that part of the thing. So, and I have no regrets. I'm not complaining that I had to work for 2 years for free, but I was happy to show what could be done.
Yeah.
And that was probably more important to me than anything, is to see, hey, can we use the movie platform to teach kids, to engage kids, to bring up conversations and topics that parents and kids could then afterwards say, hey, what'd you think of that? Or, hey, when he said this, what do you think? So the idea of wanting to do another movie was there immediately, but how to create a mechanism to make it feasible was what took me years to wrestle with, until about 1.5 years ago, when I, through lots of prayer for these last 5 years, I had an idea of a way to try to do a second project. And that's the adventure that I've been on here for the last 18 months. Beginning of last year, 2022, I started writing another movie. And then we shot it in the middle of last year. And then in the fall, I started post-production on it and editing, and we're just about done editing. Wow. We're about to create our rough cut and send it off to the composer. So we're getting really close to the end.
The music score.
The musical score, yep. So we're getting really close to the end with the hopes of releasing it here in the fall.
Ooh.
Again, a leap of faith.
A huge leap of faith. Now, speaking of the model that we're trying to do and who we're trying to serve, the interesting thing about this movie is that we really wanted to target pathfinders and adventurers, because I decided, first of all, to feature them in the movie.
Okay.
So they have a distinct appearance in the movie. And the second thing that's really interesting about the movie is that it teaches the honor for dinosaurs.
Does it really?
For both clubs.
Oh.
I actually wrote it into the screenplay. All the requirements are touched in the screenplay.
So all you have to do is watch
that?
it, and you get your Pathfinder honor or your
That's exactly the
adventure.
idea. That's exactly the idea. So for clubs, very handy, because they can literally have a movie night and
Get an
watch the movie and get an honor and understand and have fun, engage with the story, bring a friend, use it as an evangelistic tool.
Wow.
The other thing that we're excited about, especially in this lead up to the Camporee in Gillette, is that if we can release on time, which is our plan to release here in September, is that the movie would be able to license it for fundraising. And that's another big thing that we wanted to help the clubs do, because coming into this year, fundraising for our clubs is huge. And I'm a massive fan of clubs, always trying to figure out how to help them. I love going to Camporees and speaking, but how could I help them with this movie to raise funds? So that's why I came up with this idea. Okay, the honor is built in. The movie can be used for fundraising, could be used for evangelism. Schools can use it, churches can use it for a movie night, because that's another thing that I get a lot from pastors. They're like, we want to have a movie night, but there's nothing to watch. We're not going to show this, we're not going to show that. This Christian movie is not family friendly. So I was like, wow, I could help them with that too, and create a movie that would be family friendly, church appropriate, squeaky clean, fun and adventurous, with a very clear and distinct message, a spiritual message. So those are all the things that we're trying to do with the movie. And of course, the financial model that will hopefully help us to keep this sustainable is the licensing fee. So again, to clubs, you pay the little licensing fee, and you can sell tickets, you can sell burritos and pizza, you can do whatever you want. That's all yours. I'm just trying to help pay for the movie with the little recoup the cost with the little licensing fee, and then whatever you can fundraise. Because usually when you have a movie, if you license a normal movie, they're taking a percentage of your cut of anything, concessions, whatever. So I'm like, no, I want to support the clubs. You just help us do a little bit to help us pay this thing off. And then whatever you guys can use to fundraise, whether it's a school, clubs, churches, groups, knock yourself out, and hopefully it can be a blessing for anybody watching.
So these Pathfinder leaders can use that financing for it to help fund the trip to the Camporee, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my goal would be to encourage churches to say, hey, support your Pathfinder Club by just paying for this little licensing fee, and they'll go to town inviting people, selling tickets, making burritos, making brownies, whatever they want, and just blow it up. Yeah, blow it up as big as you can and sell as much as you can. We did a little bit of that when we did the Mysterious Note, but only for just a couple of months. But we got some great feedback from clubs that are like, thank you so much, Rich. We raised $2,000 at our movie night. So again, a great opportunity for clubs, churches, schools, anywhere in the world. Because the movie will be available on our site, and then get access to it right there and plan your movie night. We'll provide the posters and everything they need to promote it, the trailers, everything that they need to ramp up and get ready to have a screening of their movie.
Speaking of the trailer, we got the trailer here tonight.
Hey.
This is the first time
this
trailer has ever been played.
That's
is that
right.
correct?
We are premiering the trailer here tonight.
Wow.
Yay! So let's look at that right now.
How far would you go to uncover the truth?
That looks very exciting, Rich. The Secret of the Fossil. You saw it here first on 3ABN Today Live. This was the trailer. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So it's going to launch, you said, in September?
I'm hoping September 1, if we can get everything all lined up and wrapped up in time.
Okay, that is exciting. And people can go to onemustardseed.com to get information.
Yep. And of course, we're hoping to get the information out directly to the clubs. I'm already starting to reach out to a lot of the youth directors and leaders directly because of our Dinosaur tour already. I have a lot of these contacts already, so we're getting them excited and let the clubs know, let the schools know, let everybody know that this will be a resource that they'll have access to hopefully here in the fall.
How long is it?
It's looking to be about 75 minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
So
It's a good length.
Yeah.
It is a good length.
Because it is a kids movie. I resist doing a 2-hour movie
Absolutely.
for kids. It's a little too long. Adults, yeah, that's cool, but for kids, a little bit shorter.
I would think adults a lot of times are going to 90 minutes. It seems like it's shorter and shorter than it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think I could do more than 90 minutes myself.
That is exciting. So all of this is available at onemustardseed.com. Whether it's the dinosaur encounter, whether it's the brand new movie that's due to be released this fall, whether it's the Sabbath School lessons, whether any of the stuff that we've talked about here tonight, the books, all of that is available at onemustardseed.com. Let's shift gears just a little bit. Talk to us about ways that we can partner with your ministry. I know we've been talking the whole evening about that, but some maybe initiatives you're looking forward to, some dreams for the future, some goals. What are some areas you'd like to explore?
Yeah, so a couple different areas. I'd say, since we just talked about the movie, one of our goals would be to produce a new movie, let's say every year and a half or two.
That's ambitious.
Yeah, it's a big project, but it's totally doable if I can arrange the talent, arrange the financing, arrange the whole thing. The mechanism has to work so that it sustains itself. So that would be one of the things that we'd love to try to tackle. And the long-range goal, if if we can just imagine this, is let's say 10 years from now, here's our website, and here are 8, 10 distinctly Adventist movies with family-friendly audiences that anybody at any time can have access to indefinitely. So, if there's a church somewhere, hey, we haven't seen this, we saw this with our Pathfinders 8 years ago, let's watch this again. And they can always know that there are these selection of movies available that they could have access to. So if we can build up a library to that point, but that would mean we're producing one every couple of years or whatever. So that would be the challenge there, to see if that can play out that way.
What I like about that is that I've heard a lot of young people that contact me, and they want to witness to their non-Adventist friends, and they try to find something that's fun and not too religious, because they feel a little more embarrassed about bringing them to Sabbath school or church. But some fun activity like this, it will get them talking about the Bible a little bit without feeling like they're going to church.
Right.
And so
it's like an introduction, just to kind of get their feet wet and start slow. Sometimes we just think the first step has to be to bring them to church. It doesn't have to be that way at all.
And especially for teenagers, that can be intimidating. So this opens the door.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we'd like to do. We have, for a couple of years now, been talking about doing a season 2 of the Creation Case.
Oh, that would be exciting.
By far been the most watched and exciting series that we've produced. Almost immediately after I finished the first season, I already had ideas for how to do a second season. But that's a huge project.
Yeah. How long did the first season take?
It took us 2 years. And,
I believe it.
And just the filming alone, we went 40 days, 10,000 miles.
Wow.
It was a very intense shoot, and then the editing, and it was just, I had to write 600 pages of script.
Oh, wow.
And then the 6 months of research. So it was a sizable project, but I've gotten so many people from all over the world that say this has changed our lives, to be able to have this show that helps us understand this topic of creation and evolution in such a fun way that adults and kids can have fun, and to watch it and learn and grow and have fun while they're watching.
My nephews love it, and they love you.
So that's been a kind of a dream to do a season 2. But again, a pretty sizable financial challenge looms, because unfortunately you do need the money in advance to produce something. There's a
even
limit.
The trip, just the trip alone.
Yeah.
So
that's why you got to tackle projects that you can kind of handle or you can swing, but this would be a large project, which, way bigger than doing a movie, for example, which a lot of people think, oh, movies take millions of dollars. Like, no, it doesn't have to.
Right.
You can be creative and do it on a shoestring budget and bootstrap it. But a series like The Creation Case, that was...
No, that's big.
Yeah, the content is 10 times more than a movie. And the amount of filming, the thousands of hours that you have to shoot. And it was just a massive undertaking, but a huge blessing as far as I can tell of a lot of the work that we've done. That's been probably the standout resource that we've produced.
I think you're right with the research too. That makes it relevant, and it's hard because it does take a lot of time to do all that research or to study. To build that content.
And that's the problem with a lot of times the topics of creation are not addressed early enough.
Yes.
Because
I agree.
they don't know how to bring it up. They don't know how to teach on it. No, it's too complicated, it's too scientific, it's too deep. How do we get our kids to understand that? So that's why I specifically picked on that. I was like, well, we can't not do this. So we've got to figure out how to do that. And that's where the whole point of the Creation Case came out, to figure out how to get our young people early on, grounded on these topics and these discussions. So each episode, talks about different things, and volcanoes and botany and dinosaurs and fossils and, all these things. But doing a second season would be a fun challenge.
Absolutely. So if the Lord is putting on your heart tonight to support One Mustard Seed and Rich Aguilera, we just encourage you to go to their website right now, onemustardseed.com, or just pray about it and say, Lord, what do you want me to do? And is there anything that I can do to help support the work and bring that message of creation and adventure and Bible stories and nature and all of that to young people around the world? You can get in contact with Rich, and you can support that through onemustardseed.com. We're coming down to the end of the program. We're almost done here. Let's shift gears a little bit, and I just want to talk to those young people. Can you look in the camera there and talk to someone maybe who's struggling in their faith, maybe struggling with doubts, maybe not really sure if they want to walk with God or what they want to do with their life? What would you tell them?
Yeah, it's not wrong to have feelings of doubts. It is just kind of a normal thing that everybody goes through in their life. There's a moment where you look inside and you're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to identify where you fit in the world. And, the worst thing you want to do is feel like you're an outsider. You're lost. You're not included. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know where you're going. Like I said, it is okay to have those feelings, but it is also important to understand that God has a purpose for you. Mm-hmm. God has a point for your life. You're not just some aimless, chemicals floating around, because that's what the enemy wants you to believe, that you're a worthless pile of chemicals. I've seen experiments where they add up the amount of chemicals that you're worth, and it's $7 worth of chemicals is what makes up the human. And that's the enemy trying to knock us down, to defeat us. I would like to encourage you to dig deep and explore and ask God hard questions, but listen and trust and hear what He might have to say for you. Mm-hmm. And offer yourself to Him. Be open. Be willing to experiment. Be willing to try something new. Be willing to listen where maybe you haven't listened before. And of course, wait for God to speak. And sometimes, we expect some big, giant, booming voice, but sometimes it's not going to come like that. It will be a soft, quiet voice, or maybe somebody else whispering a message to you on behalf of a messenger. Mm. But keeping our ears open and being willing and available to listen and hear. And you know what? He may even have a calling for you. He may have something that He needs you to do, someone that you need to talk to as well. And sometimes by you sharing what you believe with others makes the difference. Mm. Because when you can articulate what you believe to somebody else that doesn't, that is also an act of faith building and trusting God with what you believe.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful. Yeah. What would you say, Francine, if you were to say?
I'm just saying, I almost want to piggyback back off of that, because seek and ye shall find. Mm-hmm. When we really search for God with our whole heart, He will not leave you deserted. Mm-hmm. He wants to tell you the plans that He has for you. And we know that based on Jeremiah 29 and 11 through 13, He already knows exactly what He wants you to do. And it's just searching for His word and tuning in and, like you said, listening to God's voice. Because, again, it's not going to be this audible, big thing, but when we really search the scriptures and want God's will, because He does have a purpose for you.
Mm-hmm. Amen. That's powerful. So I just want to encourage you, get into the Word of God and open up your heart to God, no matter what age you are. And if you're a parent, encourage you to spend time with your kids in nature and in the Word and teach them and let them talk and ask those questions. We're going to shift to something more lighthearted for the very end. This one says, a question came in, have you ever felt unsafe during a travel? Did you ever feel unsafe?
Unsafe, like mortally in danger?
Were you like in a scary place? Did you ever go to a place where you were scared, or you were like, wow, this country is a little stressful, or did you never feel that?
I'd say probably one of the more recent experiences. I recently went to Egypt again, and first of all, I love Egypt. I find the people there so nice, so friendly, so hospitable, but my family and I were there, and we were trying to find a place to eat something, and we just started wandering. And we went down some pretty sketchy looking back streets, and I wouldn't say we got lost, but we had gone deep into the areas of the city of Cairo where there's no tourists. No Westerners.
We have some cities like this in America too, I can think about.
And we felt so, out of place, and that was a little scary. But because our experiences in Egypt have been so good and safe so far, I don't think we ever felt like we were in trouble or anything like that. But you definitely become aware, like, whoa, this is not quite where I would normally be fitting in. So that's the one that came to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Greg and I were just driving recently in a city here in the States, and we went into this one section, and I thought, seriously? Can we get out of here quicker? So that happens in any place, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
What a great evening it's been. Thank you for coming, Rich.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your heart for young people and your creativity and passion for one mustard seed. To take that and to grow it, what an incredible thing. So thank you so much for being here.
We're excited to see what else the Lord has in mind for this ministry and what other work we can continue doing for Him.
Amen. And we're delighted, Francine, aren't we, to partner with
Very
One
much
Mustard
so.
Seed in programming for kids.
Very much so. I mean, just your enthusiasm and your willingness to reach every child for Christ. We appreciate your heart, so thank you.
Absolutely. And we look forward to more programming coming out because Rich is going to be mowing his lawn a few more times. And we're going to be getting more creative ideas that we can share with you on 3ABN. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us and for being part of our 3ABN family. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.